want to export or render out your package, your IMF package or your mezzanine, and that is a free function. It does not require a license in Dolby Vision. So if you've only done the L1 free version of your project and you want to export it or check it, you're absolutely able to do that with no charge. If you do want to run the Dolby Vision professional tools, which one of them is called Metaphire, this allows you to validate your XML and really QC it and look at a report, make sure there's no errors in it. These 4 tools, the Dolby Vision professional tools, require the paid license. Again, it can be either the mezzanine or the XML. Also, very typical with something like Resolve is you want to QC your IMF package, and you can load that back into Resolve and create a new project, and then use the ICMU mapping to confirm that it is working correctly and mapping to a target. Again, we recommend, in this case, probably an SDR target or maybe like a 600 nit HDR target. So that really covers what is free and what is paid. So let's just go over the costs. Again, as I said, the Dolby Vision capabilities we talked about that are free from Dolby are, really contact your partner, like, Resolve, it is no charge, but based on each partner, there might be a charge from the vendor. In terms of the Dolby Vision annual playback license, as you know, it's $2,500. That's what we're giving away tonight. And then my partner, Ian, will be doing the morning session coming up, morning my time. So he's based in the UK, and basically he handles all the territories for the rest of the world. I handle North America, South America, Central America. So jot these emails down if you want to contact us, if you have more questions, or you perhaps want to buy a license. These are your people to talk to. All right, so we've run the Dolby Vision Facility Certification Program now for several years. Some of you may have heard we're making some changes to it, so I just want to briefly talk about that. And to date, we have 215 facilities worldwide certified, and that's no small task. I mean, we have a team of people worldwide. AB has done most of the trainings and certifications in the Americas, and we also had a Dolby engineer who would commission the facility and essentially calibrate the monitor, come out and make sure that your wiring and everything is correct, make sure your license is working, offer suggestions about scopes and things like that. And again, then AB would come in and do the 8-hour training session for the whole facility, colorists, engineers, operators. Once completed, you were able to use the logo and the listing on Dolby.com as a Dolby certified facility. Now, that all became quite difficult during COVID, as you could imagine. And so we moved to a remote certification program, and forced us to change what we were doing. We also modified and came up with an online basically testing process where there's a multiple choice test and then a practical test, which we'll talk about in a minute. But essentially, there were also some gaps in the program. And the gaps essentially were, there was a cost of entry, a barrier cost for smaller facilities. It was not easily scalable, especially to external partners like somebody like Able Cine, for instance. And then, as we all know, sometimes colorists move around the industry between facilities. And so tracking who was certified and who was trained at a given facility, perhaps they were working that day, perhaps they were sick that day, it became more difficult. And then also colorists, individual colorists asked us about the ability to could they just be certified? And at the time, the answer was, well, if you want to go through the full facility program, but in more cases, that was, again, cost of entry barrier. So that brings us to what we're changing to now in the coming year. So we're now going to offer and move to an individual training and certification, several options. The first option is going to be free. So it's going to be a self-guided, go at your own pace online training. And as you can see, there'll be multiple modules. This is an example of the Dolby Atmos one that's being built as we speak, but it'll be very similar. And it will be the exact same curriculum that is delivered in the live online instructor-based training, but it's basically go at your own pace. It has videos, it has text, it has examples, things like that you'll be able to click through. So free is good. The next version will be essentially what was the training portion of the facility certification. And that is a paid online version where you join a classroom full of, say, 15 other people. Maybe someday after COVID, we will hold them in person, but currently they'll all be online. And it'll be $400 per individual. And the way we do it now is we spread the course over 3 days. So it's roughly 2.5 hours per day. Usually a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is what we're doing now. We will offer it in English and Spanish for sure. Chinese is very likely as well. So it really covers everything from soup to nuts of HDR basics, theory, Dolby Vision, overview. It covers the color correction, how the metadata works, mastering, packaging, QC, all those things are covered in the course. And as you can see here, AB is giving the course, and it's based on DaVinci Resolve. We've tried and tested this program again for about 3 years now with great success. And we get a lot of great feedback. We've tailored it. And as I said, we've added the testing portion at the end, which brings us to, if you want the testing portion, if you actually want to be certified, that's a $200 additional charge when you bundle it with the online training. So for essentially $600, you can be trained and certified in basically roughly a week. If you want to do the free self-guided training, you absolutely can still do the paid certification. It's $250 when purchased separately. And as I said, it consists of 2 parts: a multiple choice exam, which requires an 85% score to pass. And then the practical test is essentially a 1000 nit PQ graded file that you would download. You would use the EDL, you'd conform, you'd have to probably make a few subtle things like add a dissolve, a fade, a title, things like that. And then you calculate and do the Dolby Vision metadata and trims. And you package as an IMF and you submit back to the Dolby trainer for evaluation. So we're super excited about this. We think that this is kind of what we've heard from people that they wanted to shift to. And the beautiful thing is this is scalable to your favorite course deliverer where you get your training now. So I think in the coming year, you'll see that this will happen. So any questions, John or Kevin, on what I've shown so far? Is it making sense?
Absolutely. And I think it's very welcome. It makes it very accessible. I personally think it's a great workflow as well. One of the things I always like to tell people is using the Dolby Vision workflow and the CMU to come from HDR to SDR actually gives you great SDR. I mean, in many cases, I've found it gives you better SDR than I would normally get working in a 709 workflow. Great. So it should be of interest to people even before they get involved in the full-on HDR workflows.
Cool. Well, that actually will bring us to our upcoming topic. Thank you for that. Let's first cover the monitor requirement changes. We get a lot of questions about monitors, and fair enough. It's a hot topic. If you remember, to be a Dolby Vision certified facility, our previous statement was we had a required minimum specification. So if you bought a certain monitor from a certain company, and it didn't meet those specifications, we asked you then to go back to them and work and fix it and basically hit that minimum spec. So you can see the minimum spec that's posted. And again, since we're not going to be do this commissioning process and validating, and there's a lot more monitor companies now available, we're changing to a recommended guideline. And so there is no Dolby Vision certified mastering monitor. And we're putting out the guideline. It's very similar to the EBU Tech 3320 grade 1 color grading description of what they recommend for an HDR color grading monitor. There's a lot of questions that, if you're looking to get into HDR monitors, that you should ask yourself. And I would tell you that there's an article published on our new help center, which everyone should bookmark, Dolby Professional Support Help Center. And there's specifically a Dolby Vision post-production section. And we have a frequently asked questions area. We have a lot of different sections, but the one I'm highlighting for you here is what monitor should I use for creating Dolby Vision? So check that out. I won't spend a lot of time on, discussing what's your application. Does it have calibration? How many backlight zones does it have, etc. But, bookmark this, check it out. And then lastly, I would just say, we also get that question about, well, my monitor, this monitor says it's Dolby Vision certified. And to be clear, Dolby Vision certified in this example is not in terms of color grading for professionals. It's certified as a Dolby Vision content playback device. So that means if you watch Netflix on this device, it has a Dolby Vision DM or display mapping chip in it, and it will play back your Netflix show with Dolby Vision. So that's what that means when you see that Dolby Vision flag, or saying that the monitor is Dolby Vision certified. Does that make sense, Kevin?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's an important point that Dolby does not certify monitors. It provides a spec that you have to meet. And so if you see a Dolby stamp on the monitor, that means it has the content mapping unit firmware in it for playback. I think that's a really important point, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, thank you. All right, quickly on, we get a lot of questions about, should I do my project in 4.0, and what should you know about 4.0? I'll just start by saying, basically we started this, journey 5 years ago with 2.9, which was a basic single tone curve. And it had really 4 or 5 usable controls. They were limited. And so we found, working with great colorists like yourselves, that there were certain types of images that struggled with this set of tools. And so we adapted to a new system called Dolby Vision 4.0. And it's a multi-segment tone curve. So it's a 3-segment tone curve. And what that really means for you is that lift, gamma, gain function more correctly. They feel more correct as you use them. We added some other controls around midtones and highlight clipping. And then we added the full 6-vector hue and saturation. One thing you should know about the 6-vector is it's targeted at the Rec. 709 SDR version. It's not currently built into the TVs. And so the 2020 TVs, the 2021 TVs, they don't have the 6-vector controls for the HDR format, but it's really more when you're going from P3 or Rec. 2020 down to Rec. 709 that you really sort of need to focus on mapping the hue and saturation of individual colors in that sense. So most of the partner tools have been updated to 4.0, but just so we cover that, these are the top color grading systems that now support the full Dolby Vision 4.0 workflow: Baselight, Resolve, Flame 2021, and Nucoda. And then in terms of mastering, packaging, and QC tools, Cortex, Transcoder, Clipster, Flame again, Resolve again, and Easy DCP all have 4.0 support. So what does this all mean? It means make sure that you talk to your studio partner who's requesting the content and that they're ready to receive a 4.0 project. As Kevin said, the mapping it can be really great and give you a great SDR version. 4.0 is going to do that better than any other, but just make sure that the studio partner or the streaming service you're working with is ready to receive that.
Tom,
All
can
right.
you say a little bit
Please.
on that note? Can you say a little bit about compatibility between the two versions?
Yes, thank you. That's a great topic. So essentially, we came out with 4.0 2 years ago, and we worked with certain studio partners, and they didn't feel that the 2.9 backwards compatibility that's automatically generated was good enough. In other words, you have this 3-segment tone curve, and as you manipulate it with more of these tools, in the background, it's calculating the 2.9. So we went back to the drawing board and we updated the algorithm to give you a much better 2.9 experience. And all of the tools I just showed you in that slide, these have been updated with the latest algorithms to give you a really good 2.9 derived backwards compatible version. It happens in the background. It's something as a colorist you probably want to have a look at. As you're working, in Resolve, there's a preview button that allows you to preview. And in the chat room, Abe and I can answer a little bit more detail about what version of Resolve or things like that to help you. But great question, Kevin. We get a lot of questions about, I'm doing a project, say for Netflix or something, and they're asking me to deliver the SDR. And so filmmakers are naturally concerned that their SDR, they'll get their look. So we decided to do a little experiment, and we took 8 clips from big movies and animation and live action. They were 30 seconds each, and we had the SDR that was hand graded, the manual, final SDR, and then we took the HDR master image and we had our colorist match them meticulously using 4.0 analysis and trims. So we tried to again match the artistic intent that was captured in the original SDR grade. And we put these 8 clips together, and we traveled the world. We visited 10 cities, and we put them both on X300s, and we had groups of people in the room vote for which one they thought was the original SDR hand graded image. And so we gave them iPads and they voted. And from that survey, the average correct score was 45%. And you can see it's a very traditional looking, bell curve. And what this tells you is if you had just simply guessed A on every answer or B on every answer, you probably would have done better than the average score. In fact, only 3 people out of the 561 people were able to get all 100% correct. And so what this tells me is that you are able to get your SDR look, the look that you're trying to get using the 4.0 tools, and that no one would be the wiser whether you hand graded it or not. The second part of the world tour we did was we took several examples, Kevin, to your point, where you can actually get a better SDR version than what you hand graded. And so we found some organic examples where filmmakers already had an SDR version in the can, and the studio asked them to go back and grade that episode in Dolby Vision. So in this case, Ray Donovan from Showtime, the colorist on the right created the manual SDR grade, and you can see that the sky is very one level, one tone. And then he did the Dolby Vision version, and within a matter of minutes, he saw a better version of mapping of the buildings, of the color detail, the cloud detail that was completely lost when he did the key in the other version. This other filmmaker, also similar, he delivers his show in the US to a cable network. He doesn't even have a need for Dolby Vision, but he was very curious about future-proofing his content and to see if he could get a better SDR. And so he brought it into Dolby. Our colorist spent 5 minutes grading it in HDR, hit the analysis, did a basic trim, and you can see the example on the left. And he was just shocked at the amount of color and highlight detail that he was able to capture. Again, a couple different shots. I know this is over Zoom, so forgive me, it's not the best sort of demo platform per se, but again, the filmmaker was amazed at the shadow detail, the highlight detail that was able to be mapped into SDR. And so now he delivers his shows, again, even though he really only has an SDR deliverable, he delivers, creates them in Dolby Vision using the mastering tools. And
worth drawing attention, Tom, to the fact that it's not just about highlight detail, that actually all the way through the curve into the shadows, it comes out better because you've got more access to the bits, more use of the bits.
Yeah, and there's an article by Mystery Box, Samuel Bilodeau, that he kind of dives into some of the testing he did further around this subject. So if you're interested, jot that down and check them out. Here's the article or the quote from Sam. If you're an independent content producer, creating a Dolby Vision pass of your film is worth it, even if you can't do anything more to it right now than generate an SDR version for distribution, because the SDR version will be the best one you get. So I don't have much time left. That's kind of the gist of the thing. When we were done with the testing, we asked people, was this helpful? Was this survey and was it interesting and helpful? And we got a rating of almost 9.0 out of 10. Quickly, the consumer experience. Lots of studio partners are on board. And then we have now over 5,000 episodes and movies out there in the market in Dolby Vision. In terms of streaming services, yeah, it's pretty phenomenal worldwide, the support. And I will say, HBO Max is launching on Christmas Day here in the US with Wonder Woman. Super excited about that. In terms of TVs and penetration there, all the top rated TVs on ratings.com and CNET are Dolby Vision TVs from all different price ranges. We're now over 500 million devices out there in the market, everything from laptops to Blu-ray players to iPads to iPhones, etc. So happy holidays from Dolby. Thank you for attending. We want to do that quiz now. We got a few minutes left for the quiz.
Thanks, Thomas. Great stuff.
Thanks, Warren.